Don't care if I saw you in a magazine or if you're on TV. That one don't mean nothing to me. Don't need a shower, baby, I need a free. Lick it like ice cream, as if you mean to be disgusting. It's not enough. Chop my banana, one side I like, then no stopping up. Go shopping up, fuck that. Me on fire, Colorado. Breakfast on fire. Me on Danny Muja, come on. I saw a champagne in my mood. I get a girl from the ghetto. Cat girls from uptown. That's the life of a city boy. Oh yeah, get Dama. Oh yeah, get Jello. Oh yeah, get oh yeah, get oh yeah, get oh yeah, get. Mama Sheba, come back on. Make me the start to the paragon. Start to the halagon. Cause you know say my people they calagon. Oguno my power. As I hating on us, make we manyamo. You know I be my father's son. Cause you know say I come from Potako. That's why I'm a jago. Start to the dance, I'm like I do. Koni Tolago. I go show you say bounce and Tolago. Cause I be city boy. And as I day for the street, they give me joy. Lamborghini boy. Put them on Jesus and I'm not religious. Oh, I know. Me on fire, Colorado. Breakfast on fire. Me on Danny Muja, come on. I saw a champagne in my mood. Like it's a girl from the ghetto. Cat girls from uptown. That's the life of a city boy. Oh yeah, get Dama. Oh yeah, get Jello. Oh yeah, get oh yeah, get oh yeah, get oh yeah, get.
Hey yo, I'm not even gonna lie. I used to call myself an ugly you, but I'm not even an ugly you. I'm a sexy you, you understand? Gal all over.
This session is being hosted by Goz Abraham. He's the founder and creative director 9S Creatives. He's been in this scene for so many years, and he's one of the people that has really changed the game when it comes to like 3D. Yeah, I've been following him for a long time, so I'm really glad to do a session and have him come on board to like help, explain some of his processes, some of the ideas that he had when creating his animations. So we also hope to speak with other creatives, other 3D, other motion designers, other people in the creative space, VFX space as well, to also come share their process, share their ideas. That way, people can take what they hear, what they learned, and apply it in their own creative process. It also allows our motion design community to really grow. Yeah, because if you look at it, many times people would mention the other creative industries. They'll mention graphic designers, they'll mention UI UX, they'll mention product design, other industries, and they'll just be skipping motion designers. They'll say these opportunities are available for this and this and this, and you're not saying motion design. So we're trying to make as much noise and as much mouth as possible to show people, see all the things that we do in terms of motion design, see how much work we put in, see how creative we are, see how flat this thing was, see how we turned that into something that's pretty much alive. It's when something is animated that it's alive, basically. So that noise cannot just be done by one or two persons. It's when all of us from different places where we are working can all come together and share our processes, share what would help the next person move forward. Before you know it, all of us will be on top. All of us will be pushing ourselves, forward. If someone wants to see this project that he did and challenge himself, he can come up with something better. Then he himself, as in our host today, might see it and be like, "Ah, I can do better than that, And then the competition goes on and on, becoming bigger and bigger and bigger, bigger and better, basically. And Nigeria can now be seen, maybe to a degree, as one of the places where you can get some of the best motion designers, across the whole world. So that in itself is a bigger dream, at least for me. And I would like that same dream to also be in all you guys. So thank you all for showing up today. Like I said, the recording will be available to be shared to you via your email. Then those who register, the ones that will receive it, because the link is there. Register, and then we have your email. I always share you sessions like this. I also share you other things as well. Without any further ado, I would like to call him on stage. He's the, like I said, he's the founder, creative director for 9S Creatives, Mr. Abraham. God's Abraham. See, this is your name, Seth. We need to discuss. All right, so welcome.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes. So I'll stop sharing my
All right.
screen, and then you can now take it from
Yeah.
there.
Okay, great stuff. Let me quickly share.
The name should.
Did someone say the name joke?
Yes. So that you all this class. They don't clap for me like this when I do my session. I need to work
So
on
guys,
that.
yeah, just give me a second. I want to load the window
Okay.
quickly. So, all right,
Right.
you can see this, yeah?
Yes. Your screen is currently showing.
All right, so we can move. All right, guys, as Michael has said, my name is Goz Abraham. So it's China Gozim Abraham. That's my full name. But then I just like to shorten it to Goz. So I'm a creative and design enthusiast, and I love everything about creating something. And I also love making sacrifices for this craft. Um, more, more like what Michael said about the industry, and then growing the motion industry in Nigeria. I figured about 4 years ago that if we're going to develop something that is great and something that is attractive, then we're going to need to know what we're doing first. We're going to need to make sacrifices to learn. And then obviously we now make ourselves ready for opportunities. And there's something I love to say, that value is very seductive. It attracts like a magnet, and then it holds firm like the grip of a toddler. Okay, so if you focus on value, when opportunities come, you can then, imprint or put your footprint on that opportunity. Okay, so I really appreciate the opportunity to be here to share our process, our thoughts. I'm a design enthusiast like every other person. And I just love gatherings like this, which is why I was happy to join and share. But you're going to pardon me a little bit because I may not be able to share to the extent that everybody will be satisfied, like every detail, every corner, because of some contractual obligations around this particular project. Um, so I will try my best to be very descriptive around the limitations or restrictions we have. But I'm sure it's going to be helpful because I'll share things that are just also processes we have created, processes that we've come to see over time and all of that. So I'm the creative director of 9S, and the best way I can describe 9S, the best way instead of going history or anyway, is we are the guys that will match what Pixar and Disney have done globally from Nigeria. Okay, and I just want you, I want you to be the first to know that, or the second to know that. Maybe some guys already know that, but we are at the starting phase of that, obviously. But every single step we take is to get and learn the mastery, get the connections, get to the people that will take this industry to that place. So we are the guys that will do that. I, definitely won't probably leave any stone unturned in going for that dream and that goal. And so I'll just leave you with that. You can check our page to see, what we've started doing, what we've done, the kind of projects we engage in, the skills we've cracked. I can share one experience before we go into the motion breakdown to show you how much we've been building this for some years now, in terms of sacrifice. So in 2021, I took about 8 months. I was off employment, and I think I was about to start the studio. We had already started maybe just passively or silently, but it took about 8 months to create over 300 3D products. Okay, so every single day I was creating. So from cars to um, Jeep to jets to products, electronic products, anything, we have we have all those lists now. Of course, we can render and keep sharing. So, from now till maybe next year, we can post a model a day. It's what happened, and that sacrifice I took was for mastery, and then we took some other sacrifices and some silent or passive ways to so that when the opportunity comes, we are leaving a very strong footprint. We're leaving trails of gold, on those opportunities. Okay, so if that would encourage someone to actually focus on also creating value or harboring value within themselves, I would appreciate that it helps someone that way. So I'll quickly break this down in 30 minutes. Then we will have time to talk and ask questions. And to the best of my ability, as I mentioned again, I may not be able to answer some or provide answers to some particular type of questions, but I'm sure we might be able to find our way around some of them, and just maybe put some of them, somewhere till later. All right. So I think we can go ahead quickly.
Yes, we can.
So for this project, it's the Key mobile app, an interesting and exciting project that we, got the opportunity to do for the client. That's Keystone Bank. So here, let's start here. So the brief, typically every engagement starts with a brief. And for you as a motion designer or as a creative or as a marketing communications person, actually, this is the most important part for client satisfaction. So if you don't get this part right, you would have a lot of back and forth. You will have mostly, dissatisfaction because you've not gotten what you want to do. You don't understand what you want to do, or you've not interpreted what you're meant to do for the task. So it's always good to be very clear at this stage. For this particular project, the brief was to launch the new Key mobile app, and the goal was to be informative, engaging, and captivating. Of course, the client's brief was more elaborate than this. Okay. And then now for us as a process in 9S, when we receive a brief, we create something called the imperative for motion or the motion strategy. And you can do that simply by answering this question. What do we need to do to achieve this brief that we've been given by the client in motion terms? So motion terms is something you need to apply your expertise to. So when it comes to motion, motion language is different from normal language. When you say something is flying, something is moving, something is jumping, something is demonstrative, something is comparative. The vocabulary used for motion is always different, right? And it helps you also know, okay, this is how I'll approach this video. So I'll go through 3 major strategies we came up for this video and explain also how we brought them to life as we go on. So the first one was to be demonstrative and captivating by using visual metaphors. Now, visual metaphors is a term I coined from our processes, from one of our projects in time past, where you use 2 visual elements it's like you compare and merge them together to interpret a line, right? So you bring 2 elements to life, and I'll show you exactly where that is. So let me just skip to this part of the slide. This part of the video, which we'll still go through, These are the major areas we use things like visual metaphors. So here you had money. The it was not the brief was not or the script was not money flying out of a phone. Okay, the brief was get loans instantly, conveniently, or something like that. So that's a line. How do you get a metaphor? And this is a trick that can help you create like ideate faster, distinct visuals, or demonstrative or captivating visuals, right? So the idea here, so and this is even before execution. Okay, the idea here is to visualize, and this could be visualized in a lot of other ways. Like that's why I'm showing the technique so that you too, when you have your project, you can think in different ways, right? But the trick here was to uh, get the money to fly out into a wallet from the phone, because it's meant to be the phone. The phone is the symbol of the bank, and then the wallet is your wallet. And then, so we just wanted to visualize that, simply. Also here, let's go branchless. So the phone in the bank in the phone. This one had to do with how do you execute this now, for instance, to make it work. So we'll talk about how we tried to execute this, or we did execute this. So let me just take some steps back. Yeah, so that's what we tried to do. First thing was visual metaphors, because with visual metaphors, you know that if you crack the right visual metaphors, you are going to, you're already starting on a good foot of being captivating and engaging. Okay. The next thing was we're going to create connected and story-based transitions. This is another type of transitions. You have, as motion designers, you have, you can go to Envato or stock sites, or even create transitions of your own, where maybe you're using um, lines or shapes that just move, you animate them in and out, right? But this is another type of transitions where you are creating a transition from the story that you're animating. Okay, we'll show how we did that when we are breaking down the full video. Okay, so but just note this part of story-based transitions. And then the third one was this term I learned from a crew, corridor crew. It's a popular term in VFX. It's called Warner, or in directing, right? Or cinematography, rather, cinematography. It's called doing Warners, right? So what this means is a Warner is a continuous cut. So it's the illusion of a continuous cut, where it's like there's one camera motion or there's one object motion that is showing or taking you through different stages or scenes at the same time. So it's just going, and there's no camera cut. You're not fading out, you're not fading to black, you're not fading to white. It just creates an illusion of everything is coming from this one motion. Now, in cinematography, there are different ways of interpreting that in real life. Most times it's with one single camera. So you see most action sequences that it's just one camera shot. I don't know if you've seen Extraction. The first camera shot was a Warner, because it was just one camera that was revealing all the actions. There was no cut. So it was well choreographed and well timed. When you're doing Warners, that's the most important. It's like you're doing a dance rehearsal. It's like choreography, and you are all rehearsing for a stage play. So you're timing everything to come at the right time. So we knew if we were going to make this captivating and engaging, to an extent, or to the best of our abilities, we can apply this style. So it was part of our motion strategy. Okay. And so the next stage is not the direct next stage. The stage before this is scripting, but just to compress it. But the next visual stage is storyboarding. And this is where you plan all your shots. Most people, or most motion designers, or even myself before now, most times the stress to actually do this, you feel, no, just let me try to create. If I create, you like it. Nah, it doesn't work most times when you're trying to operate with clients that don't care about your process. They just care about what they want, right? So they don't care about your good visual might be so bad to them, So like you might just have this wild idea, this badass idea, right? And then um yeah, guys, I don't know what this is. The there is flat or it's plain, and stuff like that. So this process saves you all that stress. And there are different ways you can do this without having to sketch, where you can storyboard. Storyboard is planning all your shots, all your scenes, all your transitions, one after the other. Like in your mind, and even with visual references, what you are going to do in each shot. It just helps you. It makes your life easy. Okay. And for here, what we did was we cut video references. So we used Pinterest. We used Pinterest, Pix, no, not Pixabay, Free Pick, uh, this Envato. Motion Array, those sites. So we use that to like check for different. Obviously, you won't find this shot there at all. It's your idea that will drive your search. So I'm not saying you go there, you find what to do. You know, when you have your idea, remember we already have a motion strategy, so we already know what to search for. You know, and our motion strategy was a little bit more elaborate than that, but then we already know what to search for when you have a motion strategy. You know, you're not just looking for, you're just typing, give me motion, you know, in Envato. No, you're typing specifically for screens, for instance, you know, or you want to see how you can bring out different cuts, you know, different Warner styles. That's Warner that I referred to earlier. Um, and then, so that's what we did. And then we built each scene one after the other. Okay. And then we knew what we were going to do. I think if you ask what the percentage of storyboards to conversion was like to final output, I would say like about 80%. Like we retained about 80% of the storyboard. This is not the exact storyboard. This I just brought this from the video to show the scenes that we built. You know, the storyboard was a bit rougher than this, you know, just different videos in different places, but in a folder, right? But I'll say about 80% was retained, you know, from the storyboard. And that's because we could workshop that also with the client. They understand. If there's anything to correct, they correct on the storyboard, in the storyboard, or in the storyboarding phase or scripting phase before you actually go ahead to create, right? And so me, I can share this as I've been an individual motion designer before, and now I'm managing a studio, a company that, so it's different when you're looking at things, when you want to, you know, push your process up a notch a little bit, you need to take this, you know, stages very, very, very serious. Okay, so when we get into the video itself, because I'll just be scrolling through the video and be breaking down some sections, then we'll probably go through all of this. Okay, but just to note that these were the sections that we built for this particular story. Now, software. The software we actually used all these five at different points in time. Cinema 4D was the major software for the 3D animation. And that's where we created most of the compositions. In terms of project files is like, you know, when you save a file and then you want to do one work. I'm sure we know what that is, like After Effects project file. We had two project files. So because the idea was to do a one, and that means to have one phone move. So we just had two project files for this entire project. In Cinema 4D. After Effects, we use it for the first layer of compositing. This is another process too. I don't know if I cracked it. I think it might be general also. Like some other guys, they might be using it. I don't know, or some other guys in the industry. But I use After Effects for the first layer of comping. So when I put all, and sorry, we can't show this just now or show all the detailed, you know, open After Effects and all that. This is not the class where we'll do that. But if you can, you know, follow along and just know how these tools can be applied for these separate functions. So After Effects, we use it for the first layer of compositing. So we always render in image sequences after Cinema 4D, right? So image sequences, you bring the image sequences to After Effects, right? And then if you want to adjust any, I'm just more comfortable with After Effects for color grading, for line effects, and for anything I want to add. So some of those extra things on top of the video, when we move forward, you see them. It's just, for me, it's easier to do in After Effects, you know, and After Effects works well with Cinema 4D a lot to partner on that motion level. And then the second layer of compositing is Premiere Pro. In a tutorial on my YouTube page, I'll still do, you know, a proper session on these workflows. You know, just make these workflows available. You know, so you can also subscribe there to, you know, check that later. But so Premiere Pro we use for the second layer. So in the end, Premiere Pro is the file that I render, but I don't do any work on Premiere Pro. Premiere Pro will just, for me, Premiere Pro is easy for cutting and rendering and exporting out, right? So I always combine these three softwares, almost like you're having, there's this thing they call it a non-destructive workflow. I don't know if that's what it's called, but just a connected workflow where, and I'll tell you why it's very important, why these layers are very important. When the clients come with corrections and suggestions and whatnot, if you don't have a process that's connected, you will start again, you know, and it will become a burden for you. Then you start, you know, almost complaining to the client before you've even tried. So there's some feedback you can actually just take and actually start doing because you have a connected workflow. And there's some ones that just look like, no, guys, we have to go back, and start creating this vector again, from scratching from Photoshop to After Effects and all of that. So with After Effects, Premiere Pro, and even Photoshop, you can connect the workflow, and then with Cinema 4D, we use an image sequence. So imagine this: I create a vector on Photoshop, and then I take that file to After Effects, and that's how I load that vector I want to use in the video. Then in Premiere Pro, I load a composition from After Effects. They are all connected now, right? Now, if the client changes one word, one line, I just need to change it from the source, right? Whether it's from whether it's from Cinema 4D or from Premiere Pro, and then everything reflects. Also, I'm not necessarily doing a lot. I'm just changing it from the base, and then everything, all the changes are reflected there. Again, I'll go detail in the tutorial to just share this workflow if anyone will be interested in it. And then Blender in particular, I use Blender for 3D animations. I just find it more comfortable to do. So the hand animation here was done with Blender. And then there was an interesting way where we comped it. Okay, so let's just quickly move into the video breakdown. Okay, I think I already shared this, so let's move into the video breakdown so we
All
can
right.
start.
1 second. So someone shared before, and he removed your screen from being in the center. So can you please unshare and then reshare again? That way your screen is now on center. Somebody mistakenly shared the screen, so it seems to have removed you from some people's view. Just
Okay.
unshare and then reshare your screen.
Okay. All right, no problem. Are we good now?
Yes, we are. Perfect.
All right, great stuff. All right. Hope it is not far away. It's not far back that the person.
No,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
it's exactly very
All right,
close to me.
great stuff. So let's just go into the different breakdown, and then I'll share some techniques that I'm sure will be helpful also, and then you can also reflect on these other software and processes that we used. So the beginning, let me just play this through, then I'll just use the timeline to go back. So from this point to this point, where the phone comes together, yes. Now, there's a technique here. First of all, the intention was to start well. Okay, part of the strategy was to start well. Um, sorry, give me a second. Yeah, so we wanted to start well here, and I love this technique that I'm sure again people will have other names for it, but I call it the moonwalk technique. So that moonwalk dance, where what Michael Jackson does, where he moves back, right? So it's actually a technique called reverse animation. So it means that you're starting from the end and going back to the beginning. Now, this is a crazy technique for most things. Those type of videos where you have a logo that is going out or coming from different pieces and coming back to form one logo. Most times, if you want to do that from the beginning, you have to first create those pieces outside. Now animate them to now come and start fitting them, in the section where that forms the actual logo, or a phone or anything, whether it's a 3D object, whether it's a text, anything that you want to do that way, that has a lot of elements coming out and coming back in. This technique is for me, this is the technique to do it, right? So it's called moonwalk. So this is how it works. So my animation actually starts here, this point with the phone. All the screens, everything is in one group. And so that's one of the techniques you need to note for doing a Warner. Everything is in one group. So all the screens are in one group. So I will just arrange them and put them. So let me move back a little bit. So this is what I mean. This is what I mean by all the screens, right? All these screens. They're in one group that has the phone. So I'm animating the group for the general motion. That's for the general movement, right? And then I can now have secondary motion inside the group. So when you have a group that has all the elements, you can animate the general motion. And so you can now take any element out, inside, anywhere, and it will still move when you still move with the general motion. So it's almost like layering your motion in a way. Another important technique, layering motions. So here I started here, so just keyframe everything here with all the screens and their positions here when the phone is like this. And then I animate backwards. So I'll move further in my timeline and then animate backwards. So I'll come to a place like this and then I'll create this frame. So there's something also called blocking. Blocking is where you create your key poses before you now refine it and make it smooth. So you usually typically use it for character animation, but then in situations like this, you can also use it, so you just create your key positions, then the keyframe will record it, and then later you refine all the movement. So blocking will usually look like this is one pose, this is another pose, this is another pose. So it will usually be jagged like this, So one pose, second pose, third pose, and fourth pose. That so literally you can block 5 poses here. Okay. But remember I'm doing this backward. So I go from this, I come here, I put the phones down, and then I go back to the beginning here. And then when you now play it, now because you've animated back to the beginning, when you now play it, it will now look like they are forming, going out, and coming back here. Okay, so that's the moonwalk technique there. That's for that bit. Then someone asking a question. All right, sorry. I just got almost distracted by that. Okay, so after that, obviously, so I now continue. Remember, the principle is a warner. So just notice that nothing is changing here. We didn't do that warner for all the scenes, right? Because, I mean, the client will come, and probably, but I mean, not necessarily the client, to be honest, right? But we just had to cut maybe twice or 3 times, just to help with some of the messages, right? So here, from this point, remember this is where I started. So now I'm going further in time, and now I'm continuing the animation. So I started by going backwards, and I'm going back to where I started from before, and then I want to continue. So we then animate. This is a second phone that is in the null. Remember, once it's in the group, you can have one primary motion, and a lot of things can be inside that group. Okay, so this one is in the group, so I can do anything I want with it and bring it in at any point in time. I can hide it at the back. I can do anything. It will still follow the general motion. That's the principle. Okay, and so I can move that, and then it's the same phone that moves and forms this lone part. And then obviously I brought in the background to switch. So you see it's the same phone, okay, that forms this. There's a pop-up effect. And all these ones are more practical to be, I mean, pop-up effect is just scale up, scale back out, right? And then remember again, everything is inside one group, and that's the trick. That's how you can control. You can control this lawn. You see how the camera is moving, but the lawn, this part is still like following the motion. Okay. Then it's still the same phone that now comes to this area. Now this area is the same principle. So we have worked from back from this area. So if we do not know if we don't have our storyboard, we won't know how to come back or where to go to. If we are just creating one after the other, we'll just be meeting it and saying. So you cannot do this without having a storyboard or knowing what you're doing in front, because you have to rehearse with all the elements in. So this money was in the scene all the way from the beginning. Everything here was in the scene. So we then come to this part where this particular screen, it was a bend deformer that was used here, and then the money is flying through a spline. So the spline is also in that group, right? It's flying through a spline. That a spline is like a path on Photoshop where you animate an object along a spline or along a path, okay? And then it comes into the wallet. So all this is just timing. Remember I said this is like a dance rehearsal, right? It's like choreography. Timing and precision is very key to at least to get it working or looking like what you want before you now even start refining, okay, and saying, okay, I want it to be smoother at this point, and you can always go, on and on with that, with the refinement. Okay, so here, I think that principle explains what we did here. So this is the first cut, this blue transition to this scene. This scene is not, I mean, this one we just used a cloner effect um, for the sails to pop it out. And it's in the same null also. So same null principle. And then whenever you notice I rotate the screen, I change this, I animate the visibility of another screen to show the new one. So that's I'm switching screens also, right? So let me go here, for instance. I think this is the part you can really catch me on that. You see this screen and this screen, it switches with the motion, but because it's very fast, you might not notice on time. So here, it's just animating the visibility because they're in the same node, and it will just follow. Okay. Then we cut to this. We can just go through this. I'm done with this part. Then this is the part that started exciting me a lot. So from here, this is where in fact, before this, the cut we had before this, everything was connected. We just really wanted to do this one thing where we're obsessed with it at the time, where, something is transforming, maybe a card is transforming into a plane and then is revealing this next scene, and it gives you the illusion. Now remember, this is not a perfect one. I mean, it's just the principle of the one that we're using here, not necessarily that it's a perfect one. We're just using the principle. So here we use the pop-up effect, but the major thing here is the transition, okay, and the timing. So all these are actually different phones, and I'll show you where it cuts. So when we pop this in, this pop-up effect is an easy practical effect. Just pop up, scale out to scale in, and do some curves. Then from this part, now the challenge is you want to transition because in Blender now I've animated the hand with the phone. You can do this all on Cinema 4D if you can in one place to make it life easier for you. You will not have to go through this process, but let me just maybe still share. Because we animated the hand in Blender, right, and brought it here. So I animated the hand with a separate phone there. So I kind of have to match it with this different phone and not make anybody notice in any way, right? Because it's the hand in Blender now that will carry the next motion. So I have to make it seamless. And so that's why we did it like this. So you see now, the part that other phone comes, I've separated the two phones, but you won't, I mean, if you notice, yeah, that's fine. But here, it's just the phone is going back and separating to the back. So this phone in front here is now the new phone with the hand that I've animated in Blender, right? And so that's why it's easy. I send the other one away, and then it just continues the motion. So it's just a thing of timing and precision also, right? And then the phone can do this because now we're transitioning into the next effect, which is for NQR. And so you see that transition from here, and then we go here. And then after this, the hand also leads to the transition for the next thing. And then we have this one where the screen. So here is still the principle of using one null. All the screens are arranged. But to make life easier for me, I just use two screens to start with, so that I can mark the positions. And then because I think as we switch between how many screens here, maybe 5 or so. I don't know. Right. So you see that they are all going the same way. So I just used two to do the motion and then duplicated it so that everything just goes like that. So this is just basic keyframing, nothing so much. And then, yeah, this is what I was saying about every text, all the text you see here, it's After Effects, or any text, any extra line effects from After Effects. And then this part, yeah. So you see now, it's the same phone that's going to introduce the next part. So let me play that through here. It's the same effect. So these guys what I did here was I switched the phone in the middle to another phone. So I think it was at this point I switched it. Yeah, I think it was at this point. I switched the phone. But I'm switching at the point where it's faster, so you don't have to notice it, right? So the phone is switched there. I So I can have the one that has all these guys. So I just put all these guys in Cinema 4D 3D space, put it in the null, and then animate the scale to follow the opening of the phone, right? And that's how we had this actually. So I mean, the technical part of this is how to add all these characters. Most of these characters were not created from scratch. Um, these particular ones, we didn't have to. It's not. We don't have to do that here. These ones, there are places you can find characters online, CD Trader, new free characters sometimes, and then you just rig them by yourself or animate them by yourself. Um, but I mean, when you need to do custom animation, that's where you come to Blender. So that's where we use Blender for most of the time. Um, and so you have this, so it's still the same phone. I mean, the illusion of the same phone, but it's not the same phone. That is opening this part up, and then the same phone closes. I change at this point. I change the screen again. This is motion blur that's making it look this blurry because it's not playing in real time. And so I change the screen, and then I have this new part, right? And yet that's actually the summary of this motion. Nothing too much. Something, yeah, nothing too much. Okay, so guys, let's have a conversation.
Okay. I feel like I feel... All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I never knew these animations that people are throwing in the chat can actually be. Anyways, thank you so much. This is really great to actually have some insights into how this was done. I'm already anticipating. The way you said not too much after saying one group moves this one and then the animation plays from the back and anyways, so what we want to do now is if you have a question, if you already have like a part that did not that confused when you were saying stuff like we group everything together and we smart sorted it, yeah. If you have a question, just raise your hand now so we'll cater to that amount of questions. So let's say there are 10, 20 people that want to ask a question. We'll have a list of them. You guys will ask one after the other. Just raise your hand. Then we would round up the session. We'll let you know the other things that are possible, like in terms of what's it called? In terms of where you can go to get, further in-depth trainings into 3D animations like this. And also would also share some other things from the host and from the guest himself. So let's see. I want to know the total number of people that have questions. So I don't want a situation where somebody will ask a question and that one question the person asks leads to 2 million questions. That's how you have like, yes, I need to know. If you have a question, something was confusing you. You might even raise up your hand now. Then the question that you want to ask will come along the way. Or if you just want to say an appreciation to the guests, you can also raise your hand for that as well. So I'll just give it a minute for that. Thank you, Gus Abraham. I really appreciate the session. I might even start off with my own question, but it will not be something too difficult. On the in the video, there's a part where the phone opens up and it shows people in that scene. It's one of the best scenes I like in the video. So I wanted to know if like there's this place, there's the apart from the characters, I know that those ones can be downloaded, but like you see all those places where there is a table that has Keystone on it and all those those places where people are standing. I don't know if you can move to that part of the video. Yeah, this place, all those things with the iMac, those three Keystone Bank places where people can speak to the customer service people. Were those custom built or were those like is it possible to get them online as well? and just edit it and add your own Keystone
Mm,
icon to it.
okay. Yeah, so you can, there are places where you can get some of this kind of assets.
Okay.
I already had, so remember I told you like from years back, assets typically I have, both the ones I've downloaded when I was working and then the ones that I built, right?
Mm.
I think this one's, because I just went to my library to get this one. So I think this one's, I don't know, this particular was, but let me just answer the possibility. It's possible for you to download and then you select the area to text to add your texture, right? I think
Okay.
that's not a
Yeah,
problem at all.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
also possible for you to build, typically I love modeling. It's something people may run away from, but me, for instance, I put my head there. I love modeling a lot. So
I love
most times
it.
I'm making my own stuff, but I
Yeah.
think this particular ones were either assets, so they could be assets or built. So just for the sake that I went to my library to get them, I'm not
Mm,
exactly
okay.
sure which one it was here,
Okay.
but it's possible to do both, 100%. You can
And
download it, fit
okay, it's
anywhere.
possible to understand. Okay. And also, how were you so sure that it would work? For example, what I mean is, say you did you like show the client and say, "Oh, I want to do a scene like this." Did you like see a scene on Pinterest somewhere? And you're like, "Oh, this scene will." Did anything inspire this particular lesson, or would you say it was just like from scratch, like you were looking at them in the branch one day, and you were like, "I think a scene like this will be dope."
Mm.
Where did this idea for this thing just enter your mind? This
This
particular
one.
scene,
So
this specific one.
yeah, this particular one definitely came when we were brainstorming, right? And then we then
Mm,
checked and found visual. So typically, when you give yourself the chance to brainstorm and storyboard, and give yourself that session, a particular session just to storyboard and brainstorm, no design, no nothing. Um, yeah, that's definitely where we came up with this, where, to remember the principle was visual metaphors. So
mm.
because we already had that motion strategy, it was easy to start questioning all the lines in the script and say, how can we, create a
Visualize
visual
this.
metaphor for this line? You
Mm,
get, so I mean this is almost, if you want to think of something that says branchlets,
this
a
is the
a
best, one of the best
yeah,
descriptions.
you're saying the people in the phone,
Yeah,
people in the
yeah, yeah,
phone.
yeah, yeah. The branch is in
You
your
get,
phone.
yeah,
Mm.
I think we had some other options, that we proposed, but this was the one that we went with
This
in the
this
end
this
and we
was
find.
really catchy.
Yeah,
All right,
you get,
great. So thank you for the answer to that question. We'll soon start from the first to the last. I want you guys to also note that this, like he said before, there's a limit to the kind of questions we can ask, because some things are protected under NDAs and all of that, so he's going to try as much as possible to answer. But then if you're thinking of questions like how much you take charge them, how much they be, all those invasive questions, basically, this is not the session for that, and this is not, so keep your questions to the scope of the motion process behind the video you get, and not something too far-fetched. Thank you. We'll start from Ikechuku. Your question, please.
Yeah, good day, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, my name is Ikechiko. I'm a motion graphic designer,
Oof.
and I've been following growth for a long time, quite a long time. And when I saw this, the first time I saw this work, because funny enough, I also worked on the project, the Keystone. I worked on the still visuals that we used to launch the app. So when I saw the 3D, I was so curious. I was blown away. I was so curious. I wanted to know who did it, who did it. I was just asking around. I couldn't just find out who did it until he posted it on LinkedIn. So because I also follow him on LinkedIn, so that's why like wow, this is awesome. So it was really grateful. Nice one, goes. So my question is or what I learned one thing he shared in this video, which is Warner. I think that's one of the things that actually blew me away when looking at the video, the seamless transition. So I didn't even know there's a name to it. To just share it now. I really appreciate that, Warner. I love that Warner transition. And there was something you did in the group, and that's where my question comes in. When you say I don't know what I use no objects to group those elements, but how did you hide and reveal the ones you want to reveal when it's time for you to show them all the elements in the group?
Mm. Okay, yeah, yeah. Thanks a lot for the compliment. Really appreciate Ikechuko. Um, so do you use Cinema 4D? So let me know how I can maybe be
Oh, I use
helpful with
Blender. I
that
don't
person.
use. I used to
Use
use
Blender.
Cinema 4. I switched to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, welcome.
Okay, so okay, I mean I understand both language, so let's see how you could do it. So it's basically animating the visibility. Yeah. So the group thing that I mentioned,
Yeah,
in null objects in Blender it's called an empty. You can put things into an empty,
yeah,
or you can parent things into a collection, but you can't animate a collection. So you animate an empty,
yeah.
right? So when you group things into an empty, exactly, you can animate the empty and also animate everything inside the empty.
Yeah,
So it's like hierarchy. It's like a parent-child relationship.
yeah,
The
sure.
parent holds the children, exactly. So the children are in. So that's the group thing.
Yeah,
When the children are inside the parents, they have autonomy of their own, but that autonomy revolves around the motion of the parents.
parents. Yeah,
So they can go wherever they want to go, but it's also following or parented to the mother or the original group, right? That hierarchy. You get, so
yeah.
it's a thing of hierarchy. Which one is the parent and which one has the children, stuff like that. So that's how you achieve the grouping, the layering of the motion. So once you
Yeah, I
crack
get that.
that, you are
But
able.
the question is, how do you because as you're grouping them,
Yes.
they're not all revealed. I don't know how you're able
Yes.
to hide
Okay, the
when it
display.
comes
Yes,
to.
yes.
Okay,
So the
yeah.
display, yeah, so it's just animating the visibility. That's so in Cinema 4D, there's a tag called display tag. You can
Okay,
keyframe the visibility
okay. We don't
of
have that in Blender.
have that. Don't
You
remember
have
the
it. You
particular
have
function.
it. Yeah, you
You
should
have,
have it
yeah, you
now.
have it.
Animating
Yeah,
visibility.
definitely have it. Yeah.
Okay. Do you know what it's called in Blender? Because I'm not aware of it.
So yeah, I'll confirm that and share. I'll confirm that and
Okay.
share. But it should
You,
either you can. I know you can use a
yeah, you
modifier,
can.
right?
I'm sure
Yeah,
it
and
is. It's
and stuff.
possible to check on that. I've seen animated visibility for Blender before,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
So just anything that helps you that you're able to animate it coming in and out or to show and go back, you just animate it.
mm,
But in my fault is that tag. In Blender, I'll check and share.
yeah,
Maybe
if
I
if
don't know
I
how I
just
can
if you
share.
just search
Yeah.
animating visibility Blender,
Okay.
it's the
I'll
first thing.
find it.
So
I'll find it.
thank
Yeah, yeah,
you.
yeah.
Sorry, my last question. There are
Ah,
actually two of them. Sorry. Do you at any point use a geometric node in the animation? And
Mm,
how many cameras do you use?
okay. So no, I don't use if I were to use geometry nodes, it'll be in Blender, right?
yeah.
But in Cinema
Okay.
4D,
Okay.
yeah, so yeah,
I think you
exactly.
use cloner. I
So
think you use a cloner.
yes,
Okay.
yeah,
Especially
I
when
mean,
the cash was going through the wallet.
yeah, that was a spline.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, aligned to spline. On Blender, it's called path, so you can animate something along the path, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think
So
Great.
you what question did you ask? You asked, oh, is that all?
Okay. How many cameras
yes.
did you use?
Okay.
Because you switching cameras.
Oh, those cameras are a lot. Oh. So because so I can't even count because it's just based on the particular that's what you used to create the illusion of the one also, right?
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
deceive people. Yeah, exactly. So as much as you can use, but yeah, most times it's one camera if it works. But when you're trying to cheat, you can use like two or three. There's also something called compositing on Cinema 4D. It's a compositing tag where you can composite, you can switch between cameras, right?
Okay.
And it will be like it's one camera you used.
Wow.
So that way you can achieve, continuation and different camera settings at different points in time instead of trying to do everything on one camera.
Okay.
I'm
Do we
about
have
to
that in
give
Blender?
up on.
Switching of camera.
Blender, yes, yes. Most of these things is just to
Yeah,
find the
find the
language. So I
word.
did this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. I did this majorly on Cinema 4D. That's why the exact words are not in. So it's
Okay.
but definitely yes, you should be able to do
Yeah. Thanks a lot, girls. I really appreciate. I hope we work together.
that. Anytime,
Okay,
man. So,
now. Thanks.
All right,
yeah.
Bye.
all right,
All
all
right.
right. Thanks for your question. Quickly, Tosin Colade. Let's keep the questions. If you can say like two or three, if you can put them together in one go, to be better. You know. But Tosin Kolade, while
Okay. All right.
just
This thing. It's Goss. Good afternoon. Oh.
Not Afolabi Oluwatosin.
Okay.
Tosin Kolade, I was expecting a female voice. You are number 4 on the list, so she is number 1 currently. If she's not available, okay, my place is noisy. She's asking, where did the voiceover come in your workflow after getting the brief? Did you make the animation after the voiceover or before?
Oh, okay. So that is usually like an overlapping process. So because thankfully there's a team. Well, let me also be helpful for maybe in case someone is thinking of how they can do this alone.
Without a team.
Typically, yeah, typically you can do a dummy voiceover, right? Because it's also part of creative direction where you want to. In fact, the brief for the voiceover in the end would be is either you are calling the person or voiceover artist rather you're calling the person and telling the person, or you're arranging your own voice because you are the creative director or the director, right? Arranging your own voice on it first, and then now showing that to the voiceover artist. So when you have that, you can preview sometimes with the client with your voice and tell them obviously just follow. No hear my voice, right? Just leave my voice alone and then just follow the storyline, and then we'll add this is direction for the voiceover. So you can correct things like tone, tonality, words, spacing, timing, and things like that, right? And then you get the voiceover artist. But then for us, we have voiceover partners. So we're able to most times have an iterative workflow where we also brief at the same time we're briefing at the same time we are approving the script almost after we are getting a sample of the voiceover, so we can just work with the original one also. Because some clients don't just, I don't want to hear this voice again, just send me the original thing. You get, so that's how it can be. It can be your voice at first. You use that as creative direction. Most times, even if I'm working with a voiceover artist, I'll still do a sample with my own tiny voice, right? And just tell them, guys, this is not the exact voice, but I need it to go high or low at some point. Give me your own expertise and how you want to do this, right? And then that's when we'll now brainstorm and discuss and say, okay. So it's usually that kind of process, yeah.
Right. Thank you. The script for the voiceover, did you create it yourself? Or was it shared with
Okay,
you?
no, still not for myself because if it's a studio process, we also have a writer, right? If you're talking of an individual, it depends on how much you can take over as an individual. I remember when I was still running as an individual, because I had some copywriting background, or I have some copywriting background. Well, let me just say I'm a copywriter also, right? But not by pronunciation and putting it out there, right?
It's all
So
over.
most of the scripts we had done before, we write, and that also helps with creative direction, so that I can give best direction to my writer. But now it's us and our writer, you know, um, and then that's the process.
Okay. Tosin Kolade, thank you for your question. I say secondly, if we take questions like this, okay, everybody should be allowed 2 major questions, so we don't take too much people's time. Secondly, creating storyboards from references and pi- in creating storyboards from references like Pinterest and the likes, what do you search for? Like, what term would you put in the search bar to create something like
Okay.
this?
Yeah, I remember I mentioned we always
Yeah.
like to help ourselves, so we at the beginning, after getting the brief, we do something called like an imperative for motion or motion strategy. So what that means is after looking at the brief, you now ask yourself, what do I need to do in motion terms to achieve this brief? So that's where you start maybe thinking. That's the first part you start thinking, of a solution before you go to search for, let's say you want to create your storyboard now. So you must have already had an idea. I think here I wrote out like 3 of our motion strategies, right? The one thing, the continuous and story-based transitions, and the visual metaphors. So when we go to Pinterest or wherever, we are going with a directed search, and we're also being open to other ideas too at the same time. But you if you want to search, you always have to start from a point so that your search is not just wild and not directed. So you want to have a directed search. So what provides that direction is your strategy for motion after you receive and interpret a brief. In fact, most times it comes from interpreting a brief. So I think my advice is even just give yourself that process so that you can help yourself, because you get a brief, you give yourself the chance to interpret it in a different session, not in the same session. Leave ideation for the next day or another time. Interpret the brief. From there, the outcome of that interpretation of that session will always be a motion strategy, because you do that with your laptops on, your team, and whoever is around you. And you will definitely have, oh, this is probably what we should do. Then that provides the direction for your search.
In a case where it's only you, now you be the team, now you be the creative director and the motion designer, what
Now
would you
you be
do?
team.
Yes. How would you
In a case, I mean,
how
I
would
think it's
you
still the same thing. I like because it's most of those experiences that I use, for my team now, right?
Mhm.
Um, because it just helps you. You're helping yourself. When you're also working with a client at that scale. Um, I think I work with those kind of clients too, also as an individual, because you don't want to also tell them that you're an individual. You understand?
Right.
You also want to show them a process and let them know if when you're doing your invoice or things or those kind of breakdowns, those are the kind of things you want to put there. So whether or not it's a team, you need to start learning how to adopt those type of processes. Learning what the processes are, what the pipelines are, and that's how you even look professional also to a client, and you can build, maybe you can change your billing structure also because of that, because you are saying you know what you're doing, and it's beyond even saying you know what you're doing. It's actually helping yourself and knowing what you're doing. So I think it's the same. You
Okay.
get?
So
I think it's the
so
same.
even if you are working as an individual, you should try to repackage that individuality and make you seem more like a team, such that it will really
Yes.
help in terms of building the clients and all that stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
The next person is Olutoyesi. See, if I butcher your name, please don't come for me. But you know yourself, you are the next person on the list. Please go ahead and ask your question.
No, no problem at all. Yeah, good afternoon. Um, so basically, my question is, when you were switching from one phone from another, is it like a typical traditional keyframe of, or you used postmorph in Cinema 4D?
Yeah. Uh,
Okay. So it's not postmorph. It's not postmorph. I'm trying to see. So if I would have used postmorph anyway, I would have used postmorph for that part where the screen bent. But it's typical keyframe, right? Because postmorph is to register poses, right? And then now switch or slide in between both of them. So it's usually, for a scene like that where I wanted to bend the phone, I would have used postmorph there when the phone was flat, and then create another pose when the phone is bent, and then I can now slide between flat and bent. But in switching the phone, it's just a normal keyframe animation, rotation, scale, position, moving left, right, camera, same, yeah, normal keyframe.
Okay. And lastly, how many people worked on the project with you, and how long did it take? Well, like from the beginning to the end of the project.
Okay,
somebody in his
so
bedroom
I mean, my
voice
team,
yes.
can you hear me?
Go ahead, Tim.
Yes, I can.
Okay. So how long? Let's speak about how long, right? How long typically? I think this ah took maybe over a month or 2 months. But I don't like answering timeline questions because I always want to understand the context, because what extends the timeline of a project, or what says or determines the timeline of a project most times is the client you're working with, the client urgency, your pace, your production advantage, your team, your expertise, your skill, and all those things. Because if I say 1 month or 2 months, it's not for no. I don't want you to go and bill someone that's looking to pay you well in 3 weeks, and you go and tell the person 2 months. Person will run away and say that's standard, because it's also possible to do it within three weeks. Now, possible in the sense of you will not sleep, right? You will stay awake, but for the reason that you want to, get whatever it is you want to get,
Mhm.
you can do it within 3 weeks. For me, I don't. In fact, why I also don't like asking those questions is what people used to know me for earlier is those crash works. creating magic in 3 days, creating magic in 2 days, but I've been running away from it for years, right? So now it's more of when we see a project, the way we first do our initial timeline, allow the client to respond to the timeline, and then that's the timeline we now have. So we always give ourselves space in that part of the conversation. You have to always be looking at the temperature of the conversation, right? Of, is time an important factor for this deal? Will it make it a deal breaker or not? Right. So if it's going to be a deal breaker, I beg you, try your best to see what you can do. That's why you start looking at yourself and saying the production advantage. What advantage do I have? Do I have live 247? Do I have people I can share with? Do I have stuff? For me, I have a team, as I mentioned. Don't necessarily want to mention the number for now. But I have a team, right? That I work with. In terms of animation, most this animation mostly I did. That's why I can also share the processes, because I'm also an executioner as much as I'm a creative director. So projects like this sometimes we may have to, but this one was me. Yeah, and then yeah. So I hope that's. I know it's a bit vague, but I hope it kind of
Yeah,
answers it.
totally
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Thank
All
you.
right. Yeah.
Um,
Thanks for
next,
understanding.
next on the list is Ajayi.
I think that's me. My name is Optimus Prime. Okay, sorry, I've always wanted to do that. Was just trying out the voice and everything. So I've got like I'm first of blown away by the work because I'm more of a like Photoshop user and I just started the whole motion journey, even though it's been like weeks and all of that. And truly, this is kind of like this is inspirational. Like I'm just looking at my life like almost within a soul. So I have like three questions in one. So I noticed you were mentioning the softwares, like the ones you use. So I wasn't really getting the workflows. I just want to know which software did you start with and which one did you end with? For example, let's say you created the stills on Photoshop, from there you moved to Cinema 4D, from there you moved to After Effects, from there you moved to Blender, from there you now finish everything in Premiere Pro. I just want to get how did that work? That's the first question. Then the second question is, can you also share like resources and plugins? For example, you were mentioning pop-up, the pop-up effect. I want to ask, is it a plugin? Can you share resources, places where we can, learn as well, different like plugins, access to it? Maybe there are some sites for Envato that we can use, the back end. You know what I mean by back end? You understand? So those kind of things. So I really like to know the process flow. Which software did you start with? Which one did you go to? Which one did you go to? Then when did you finish? That kind of stuff.
Is that the three
Okay, so
questions?
That's all. That's all.
Okay, all
okay.
right. Thanks.
So for the process here, um, it starts from Cinema 4D. Okay, then the rest are connected. So it starts from Cinema 4D. It starts from, if you want to go to the root, the source is, or the base primary software will be Cinema 4D and Photoshop. Why? So when you create 3D objects in Cinema 4D, when you model the phone, model every single thing, the textures, most times you either paint them. So in this one, I didn't have to paint anything on Substance Painter. That's another software for another workflow entirely. That's a character workflow, right? But here we use Photoshop. So Photoshop used to generate, for instance, the screens, the particular screens. You edit the screens there, and then you save it, right? So you now load the Photoshop file as a texture in Cinema 4D, right? So anything you want to change, you just have to change it in the Photoshop file and it will reflect in Cinema 4D straight up. So it's connected. So the rest is now also connected. So those four are connected: Photoshop, Cinema 4D, After Effects, Premiere Pro. So after we finish creating everything on Cinema 4D, we render as image sequences, right? Whether it's PNG or TIFF, usually you want to render in a lossy and lossless file format. I don't know if that's common, but maybe I can also explain that. I probably missed that. So if when you want to export in image sequences, there are lossy file formats and then there are lossless file formats. Lossy are the ones that lose quality when you compress them. So when you increase it, so JPEG is a lossy file format. That's why I see JPEG is the smallest in size and is what we use in social media everywhere. but it can compress to any size and the quality will go down with it, right? So it's a lossy file format. Lossless file formats are things like PNG, TIFF, right? So those ones, when compressed, they don't lose their quality, their original quality, right? So typically you want to export in lossless because in case you want to render or scale to 4K, for instance, you're not rendering in 4K. When you scale it up, you don't want it to lose the original quality it has. So you want to, export as a lossless file format, and that's PNG or TIFF. But the cost is space; it will be very high. So after you do that, you connect that to After Effects. That's where you now do your composition, right? So any change you do, all you need to just render is render and replace the exact image sequence, and that's what will take effect in After Effects, right? And then After Effects is now connected to Premiere Pro, where I love to do my final grading or whatever it is, or my cutting, my music. I don't like compositing audio in After Effects. I prefer doing it in Premiere Pro. So I do all the music and everything in Premiere Pro. So it's connected though. So I'm not importing anything to Premiere Pro, right? There's a way to connect it. That's what I said that we could in my YouTube channel. Just maybe if you're around the community, it will come at some point. Where we break down those kind of workflows that we use or that I use because it makes my life easy, right? Because when a client comes to correct something, you can correct it from Photoshop. It will reflect in Cinema 4D. You render, it will change in After Effects and then show in Premiere Pro. So those 4 or 5 software are connected that way. So that's the connection. The second question was around pop-up. Most of the pop-up effects are created manually, right? So most of the animation, everything are created manually. It's the assets that you have, and I always advise to learn how to create manually so that you can have control. If a client tells you they want to now change the position of something, most times when you download motion or anything like that, it's usually very rigid. So try to create manually as much as possible, pop-up effects and things like that. The things that Envato will help you with, I think it was storyboarding I mentioned Envato for, not necessarily, and maybe sound, and maybe all those what are they called, line effect or stroke effects that are just coming around the text, things like that. Most times when you're working alone, if you're working alone as an individual designer, you don't have time to do 3D and now come out and be sitting on 2D, right? Those ones you can always download preset from Envato that you can now control to whatever you want, right? So in the end, it's just mastery and knowing how to use these tools so that even when you get a preset, you can edit it and change it to what you want, right? But I mean, which other asset? If it's 3D assets, you have CG Trader. If you want to go online to check for 3D assets, CG Trader, 3D Archives.net, Turbo Squid. You know what I do? What I do is I just search if I need an asset, right? I just search the asset, maybe cap, 3D object model, add object and model together to bring all the titles. But when you see CG Trader, that's the popular one. They usually have maybe good assets. But trust me, if when I'm talking about assets, I talk about creating because I don't depend on assets. I create my assets. It's when I need to race against time that I get assets, and when I want to be efficient, maybe I'm not being paid enough to be creating all the assets all the time, then I will resort to just downloading assets. But usually, you want to know how to create your assets, so that you can edit and control it to what you want. Okay.
Yeah. That works for me actually. So like, thank you so much. So I want to just ask, do you have like some various links to like tutorials? I know you have a YouTube channel. I've already seen that on the stuff and all of that. So I'm now like thinking, should I stay on Blender? Should I stay with Cinema 4D? That kind of stuff and everything. But I think I'll navigate it too and see which one works better. It's just trying to know that if something is called display tag on Cinema 4D, it's definitely going to cause something else on Blender. So just trying to figure out how that process works as well.
Yes.
So really,
Yeah.
once again, thank you so much. I
Okay.
would definitely love to connect with you to make more inquiries, like if you can share more resources and stuff like that and tips as well.
No problem.
And give him
Though,
money.
yes, I get. And if you need
Yes,
someone for like voiceover, I'm also available. I can do Autobots, Autobots. All right,
See, let's
Chapman,
make
I
it the
greet
actual
you.
face there. Anyways, next, I'll try to make this as snappy as possible because time don't go. Afolabi, it is now your time to shine.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity to ask the question. So you've answered one of my questions, which is about the texturing process, because I understand how texturing can be really, really crazy. So I want to ask, let me just for more clarity, like the textures, like I know you give like a brief breakdown I did in Photoshop, and but I feel like is there a way you can just share a little more light on the texturing part, because I believe texturing is like the very, very the most important thing in the animation process. If the texture is not right, the quality of the video might not eat. And the lighting, like what kind of lighting did you use? Is it the environmental lighting? Did you use like 3 points lighting, or those studio lighting? And to top it up, what is the render time of this project like? Because I know that render time can take about a week, days. So what's the render time? So those are my questions.
Lex. Yeah, so so um your yeah, I don't know why I said Lex. So Lex is yeah, Lex are doing I'm currently on a 3D journey, right? Of learning. So it's beautiful. So uh the texturing Photoshop, I mean most times you want to have your assets if they're already available from the client. And then you're not creating much, you're just editing to fit the screen of the phone in Cinema 4D. So in Cinema 4D, of course, I mean, Lex, you unwrap the UV, and then unwrap the UV to fit what the screen. So you're designing the texture after the UV of the screen, right? So I'm trying not to get too technical so I don't sound confusing, but because I don't want to start explaining UV unwrapping now, because that's a 3D term for texturing itself, right? But that's typically the process. You unwrap the UV in 3D and then now generate your textures on Photoshop after the size or dimension of your UV, the way your UV is spread out. Then when you bring it, you are adding your texture to a material. So when you bring it to Cinema 4D, you are editing the material itself. So Cinema 4D or Blender, wherever, whichever environment it is, you're now editing the material to make it that shiny, to make it maybe blank, no specular, no light, not for it not to take light. So I mean, those ones just tweaking to your taste, right? In terms of lighting, environment light plus manual light. So for this kind of project, if you want to get some type of reflection that will just satisfy you, people might not even really notice. They just want to see a phone, proper phone and stuff, right? Um, you can use an environment light, so HDRI light, and then you balance it up with, let's say, quad light. The words are different now in Cinema 4D and Blender. Blender, you can use point light, circle. Cinema 4D, you can use quad light, you can use omni light. And so you can use those lights to create or animate those like particular light features or light highlight on the object. So you put it inside the main group also so that the light will follow the phone. So it's almost be like that area has that light. But generally, most times the studio light or HDR light will help you with this kind of project so that you don't have to take so much time lighting. And it will help you get realism very fast. Right. The last question I think you asked was on render time. Render time is a big, it's a big question of how much quality do you want, right? And what are you also rendering for? Are you rendering for TVs? Are you rendering for social? If you're rendering for social, you can't be doing 4K, right? Because it's people's phone. People's phone most time 720 is way enough. 720 is their HD, is their 4K for phones, right? And that's just like say ad quality or stuff like that, right? That's SD, standard stuff. So if you have enough time, render high. But with the timing of this, I can't remember the exact estimate. I can't remember because we rendered at different intervals. But it just render time depends on how clean and what you're rendering for. If you render on 4K and you render with low samples, because low samples will give you lesser render time. But you're rendering on 4K, let's say resolution, man, it will be exposed because 4K will bring out all the noise in your scene, right? That's maybe SD. If you're rendering for a phone, you won't see it. So you can always cheat depending on the resources and the time you have. Um, yeah, but I mean that will come in a practical tutorial. If you have a project, you can always text me, share me, and I can give advice. Depends on what you're rendering for, and then okay, this is what you use, and this is what you don't use, right? So I hope I've been helpful in a way there.
Been,
Yeah, thank you so
been
much for answering the question. Thank you.
far too helpful. Let's try to speed through the remaining four. Keep your questions brief as well. Victor Adejo. Victor, you're next.
Yeah, Victor. Victor is here. Hi, hi. Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yeah.
can.
Okay. So the thing is, first off, yeah, prior to joining, like seeing like the link for this ad, right? I even wanted to. I've been trying to find out who did the animation because I randomly came across it on, I think it was Instagram, and I was working with a client that has like Keystone as partner. So on like part of the research, we're like, oh, follow these guys, see what they do, and everything. So when I saw the animation, I was like, this is amazing. Like I had even saved it to be like an inspo, or guide somewhere because the whole navigation was just amazing. So when I saw it, I was like, perfect timing. Nature is on my side, So
Yeah.
I was like, I had to join this thing. Like I set like a reminder on like a lot of platforms, and then I now realized it was even today I realized that I didn't register. So I now had to go in and like register to get like the timing ready. I did like a whole screenshot on my phone of the design to make sure okay, maybe when I'm going through like my pictures, I can randomly come across that I remember, oh yeah, this thing is supposed to be by 2 pretty much. And I just say all of that to say that the execution of the project is amazing. It's top notch. And it's been a while that I've seen like a project. Because a lot of times when you see projects like this, it's from, I don't know, somebody in Albania or somebody from, some guy, maybe like a Ben Marriott or, one of the likes. But it's just so amazing knowing that this was like homegrown. Seeing like the breakdown even makes me appreciate the project more, right? So guys, thanks for this one. Like you do we finish work pretty much. Um so my question now is, so personally I'm a motion designer. I'm more into like creative, like stills and flyers for like socials, corporate socials and the likes, right? And I currently do like motion design, but predominantly 2D. And I've been contemplating doing 3D because I know it's a necessity for motion graphics because like right now 2D is good, but it's almost like bare minimum for motion graphics, if you get what I mean. Because you have to, if you try to like get a job somewhere, one of the first questions that pop up is, do you know Cinema 4D? Oh, do you know Blender? How versatile or how learned, for lack of a better word to use, are you in this software? So my question now is, seeing how well he broke down this process, and how things were done from like Cinema 4D to Blender, to the other software like Photoshop and everything. It seems like you've been doing like, this is because it seems like you've been doing like 3D for like a while, right? So if you have the time, I don't know if this meeting gives you the bandwidth to talk about it, but if you like can maybe walk, maybe for myself and then for like maybe some other person or people here that have like a similar question, is when did you start 3D? And when you started 3D, what was like the software you started with, and how would you describe your process, the learning process? Because I know that render time is crazy. That's like a different topic for another day. But how would you describe navigating like your design process? Like, did you actually start from like 3D, or did you go from like the After Effects? And then if you went from After Effects, where did you start from? Did you start from Cinema 4D? Did you start from Blender? And how did you find your way or navigate your way through the software? Thanks. That's my question.
All right. Beautiful. I'll try my best to answer it maybe the best way that I can. So I started with CorelDRAW in, let's say, if I would say like 8 years ago or 9 years ago, right? So the beautiful thing was, um I was more interested in in just starting the graphics, or just entering into graphics. But the minute I caught CorelDRAW, I just knew that I will learn everything in this space, like everything I can learn. So as much as possible. But the journey was in steps. And this is the important why I started with CorelDRAW is, or why I started saying that I started with CorelDRAW is because of its importance. Because having a graphics or a graphic design background helps you so much when you're interpreting or trying to look at the monster in Cinema 4D's interface. Cinema 4D's interface, the monster. And a lot of, in fact, that's what I get first when I'm trying to train or stuff like, guy, what am I looking at? Or Blender, stuff like that. Because 3D in itself, 3D will just take you to another world. After you've seen After Effects, you think Kini, but then you now want to start 3D, and it's like all these functions and everything. So understanding graphics, the way I understood graphics. So my own unique hack is, I did not just learn tools. I learned the craft. So I learned the craft of design, for instance, to help me. So when I want to transition to Photoshop, for instance, if I want to do something, I start with the problem and then I look for the tool. So I don't go to the tool and I start clicking everything. So I start with, I want to create a this, and that, and that. Then I go and find the tool. That way, for me, I can use any software, to be honest. I mean, that's what has happened with me, because I think I use over like 25 software. I'm not exaggerating. We've counted it before. But like in different spaces, different tech, I code too sometimes and stuff like that. But this is the mindset that has helped me in that way, right? In just the design space. Let me just restrict it to this design, curve, right? I start with the craft or the problem, right? And then on the journey to becoming a generalist, yeah, I use that problem solution approach, right, to learn. So when I got to Photoshop, it was almost like I'm just understanding the arrangement, but it's still art we are doing. It's graphics, right? Graphics, but now more photo manipulation, more effect, more, oh, okay, nice, cool. So just learn. So I don't put the pressure on myself to learn all the tools. I put the pressure on myself to have more problems. So the more problems I have, the better I can be with the software. So that's how deep for me you can. That's why you see some people just open, they just use Photoshop to do something, and you're like, is it Photoshop? How now? Which Photoshop? Is it a different Photoshop? Right. So for me, the way to do that or to unravel things is to start with the problem first. Right. So try to have more problems you're trying to solve, and then you always find the tools, in the software. Right. So after Photoshop, and then I think I learned After Effects in like a week, right? Because I started with looping, After Effects and Premiere Pro. I started with just this looping effect. There was an opportunity in an agency I worked in, for an animator, and then I checked the tutorial. Because of the same mindset, I was able to do or deliver to a client for a software I've never used in my life before. And that was, I think, Premiere Pro and After Effects at the same time. So just having that mindset of, okay, what do you want to do? They only had a problem. They didn't even know how the tool. They're just like, oh, who can loop a video here? That's the problem. Voila. All I had to do was go and check online, because YouTube is our friend. YouTube has been my boss, right? So I go and check online all the materials. I see it's just move. And so I don't put pressure on myself. I take my time. So over time, with more problems, I'll master the software, right? And I just keep using it. And so that's how it was for Premiere Pro, for After Effects. So more problems just keep coming. Sorry. Oops. More problems just kept coming, and then we I grew that way, right? After that, then Cinema 4D, which I think is where you are probably trying to look into or get into. So I started Cinema 4D from an event company about 5 years ago, or 6 years ago now, I think. So I was in an event company. So that was my early experience in Cinema 4D, right? And that actually built a different rigor. The first time I opened Cinema 4D, I closed it. And I'm not exaggerating. I closed it because, you'll not come and kill me, kind of thing. So I just continued what I was doing. And then I think when I got to the event company, that was what they used. Someone helped me, and so carrying the same mindset, I'm like, what, focus on the problem. So events, so just watching the technicalities of, okay, how to achieve the solution. Then, oh, if I can do this, I can do this. So most times what we do, I have a colleague that we practice a lot together. What we do is we just think of, let us create a short film. Let us create a short film about this. Let us create this about this. Let us ideate something. That is the way we master software, right? Or learn software so that it becomes useful in the time you need it, right? So we just look at all those things. And you see, now I've never talked about interface or practical things. I'm talking more about the mind, because it's the mind that will keep you and just help you not see pressure when you're looking at the entire interface. It's just the mind of understanding it's a journey. There's no pressure, because if you want to be scared, it is scary. That's what I'll say, right? If you want to be scared, you will have that fear, you know. But if you are ready to look at it from another angle, then you will just enjoy it. This is the best thing. And let me just say this, and maybe another time we can see how, we talk more about this. I don't know. The way I see 3D as a construction site. Yeah. So you have a construction site where they're doing blocks, mixing blocks and stuff like that, right? There are different tools depending on the house you want to build. Now, when a blueprint comes and says, this is the house we want to build, what do you start doing? You start mixing cement, right? You get this tool, get pipes, you get this. Now, pipe, for instance, if you want to create a pipe, there's a place in Cinema 4D for pipe. Because 3D is like real life, so you can't learn everything, except you say you know all of life. 3D is the third perspective, so you're working with real life. So anything that can be done in real life can be done in 3D. Right, so don't put pressure on yourself. So again, grow with the problems, right? So if you see it as a construction site, what all you just do is I'll step in here. What do I want to construct today, and what do I need? So they'll procure the tools and say, okay, I need tool A to B to do what? To brush the what's it called now? The block this way, to clean the block this way. Good. So there you already have. Oh, I want to build a house in Cinema 4D. I want to build a product in Cinema 4D. What tools do I need to build this product? Right? And then so how do I actually do it? That's when you now watch a tutorial, right? So when you watch a tutorial, you will learn like 5-6 tools that can do 10 other things, right? And then that's how you just grow that way. So I would say, like, what has helped obviously is the time I've had to practice. I mentioned at the beginning of the class, right? The days I took 8 months, I think I only did 2 gigs within those 8 months. I mean, it's crazy passion. It's just, that's why I said I like this industry will bring it here, because it's just this is something I focus more on mastery and knowing things. Even till now, I'm still growing. Like, because I mean, there's still a lot of perfection to do even beyond this. This is still for me. If I'm looking at the next one, I'm looking to do it times 5. Because yeah, so it's the time you take to practice it, the love you have for the craft, and then how much more you can also seek help, leverage YouTube, and know where to start, right? So for now, let me just put it that way because I can't go further to be longer than that. So let me just leave it at that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. We only have 3 more questions to go. Sorry, everyone, for. Um, anyways, Femi Ogumbi, you may now ask a question.
Yeah, thank you, God, for this insightful presentation. Thank you so much. Actually, I think you've answered my question. I wanted to ask, as a professional 3D artist, I wanted to ask if what would be your advice for someone that is coming into motion graphics and 3D motion graphics? Like, what kind of software do you think it would be comfortable and easy to learn for that kind of person?
Yeah, so Cinema 4D, as I already mentioned, what I said, the last one can help with that question. But Cinema 4D is very good for motion graphics, like even industry standard. It is motion graphics. Cinema 4D is crazy. If it's other things, then we can ask that question and answer. Because Blender is the new boy in town that is taking everybody by surprise, right? So Blender 2 is crazy for motion graphics. It depends on what you want to chew. There's food that you like, and that's how I approach software. What do you want to chew? Pick one, chew it. Don't learn the software again. Remember, learn the craft. So you learn 3D, so that when you go to Blender, all you are looking for, like we've been saying since, is just what do they call this tool here, right? Because if you learn Cinema 4D, you can't learn Blender. If you learn 3D, you can learn Blender. You get that kind of thing. If you learn Cinema 4D, you can. So learn the craft of motion graphics. Cinema 4D, Blender, those tools are crazy right now. Crazy. You have Maya, you have 3ds Max, but I've not mentioned any of those two since, because I don't necessarily I don't necessarily buy their, but I don't know if someone here uses them, but Blender and Cinema 4D are my and Unreal Engine recently, but Unreal Engine for game and stuff. But let's just say Blender and Cinema 4D.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right, man. Well,
So the next person, second to the last, is David Oladipo. David, are you speaking? Because we can't hear anything.
yeah, I think I can hear. I
You
can
can
hear.
hear. I can't. I'm not hearing anything from him. I don't know if that's the
So
same thing.
maybe you just go ahead. Yeah, just go ahead. Yeah.
Um, I can't hear anything from him, so I'll just go to Benjamin Onoha. I want to assume that
Oh, okay,
nobody else.
Michael. I think I was hearing him. Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay. Okay.
yeah, I think he was saying something about the Warner technique.
The Warner technique. Okay. I was not here. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, just because of time, I
Yeah.
think if the recording will be available, yes, like
Yes,
because
it's
I
me.
think I explained it in a way, yeah. So
Yes.
maybe just because of time.
Okay. Benjamin Onohan. It's the same question too. Please, can you elaborate on the Warner technique? Okay.
No, 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 no. No,
Okay. You said
no.
his. Okay. You just repeated
Good
his
evening.
question.
Yeah, no, no. I was just trying to tell you guys what he was
By the
saying.
way, sorry to cut you
Hello,
short.
guys.
Benjamin Onoha is one that did the design for the this CX motion session. So that design that has
Mm,
Abraham and
nice,
yeah, he's the one. So big ups to
nice.
him.
Oh,
I didn't find the time, but he was able to come through for us in that way. So thank you, Benjamin.
Great stuff. Great
All
stuff,
right,
guy, Mr. Ben.
all
thank
right.
you.
The question.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Michael. Thank you, Abraham. Thank you, Michael, for all you do for the community. Um, yeah, this is a very mind-blowing project, and clearly a lot of work went into it. So, my question is, from the business side of things, like what are the for you, Abraham? What are the biggest lessons or takeaways in this project, and what would you do differently if another big company approaches you to do a similar project like this? Thank you very much.
It's
This
a
is a
loaded question.
serious business question. I just look at the
It's
thing.
big.
Now suit I see. No, that's all.
um,
That's all. Okay, so I like the question because it's a good way to end. This is the last question, Abi.
yes, it is. It
Yeah.
is.
Yes. It's a great way to end. So I think always, right, as as I've mentioned, as you might even take from some things I've said, we're always like we're always looking for more tools that we can add, right? More tools, more hands, right? More hands, more projects, right? And more solutions because I'm always looking to create solutions in 3D space every day. So for a next project, for instance, right, we're looking for now, this is one thing I would say. If it's your project, right, your own studios project, you can always think of doing times 15, of what you've done. If it's a client project, because it's the client that regulates satisfaction, your times 15 might be minus 15 to them most times. So you realize that it's always a continuous conversation of saying of showing the client value, showing the client, okay, this is what we can do on this project and this is what we can do on that project. But when it comes to the next project, it's always about, finding how to wave your times 15, like what you want to do more or better around, let's say, the client satisfaction in the end, because they're the ones they're the ones that will pay you, and then they're the ones that will let you go. Because the mistake I made earlier was always, okay, this work no dey sweet my body, but the money will be sweet in your pocket, and the money will be sweet for growth. So you have to think from both sides of money and passion in the same way and the balance of it, right? So as much as I have passion to say, what, guys, this is what we want to achieve. I've had that the way we want to achieve this with this client. We go and check Apple's page, probably use that as a storyboard and stuff like that. But in the end, they don't understand why the whole place is dark. Apple, for instance, will use, dark scene and one stroke of light. The product is not showing. Nigerian client, the product is not showing. Where's my product? What do you call this? You get so it's like so that effect is also around the industry. That's why the client also has to evolve with us as much as possible. But if you want to, if you're looking to thrive as a young creative agency that will show work like this and not be restricted to, let's say, clients, it also comes as a choice to say, I want to only do projects that will push me. Right. So the next one we're definitely going to be looking out for, definitely, and you're all going to see this, next year and stuff like that. Projects that will push the creativity to another level. Remember what I said about our vision is to bring match Pixar in Nigeria. We're just starting. It's a journey of years, but if we're trying to do that, we have to stay excited at the same time, So it's risky sometimes because you might have to select the kind of clients maybe you want to work with. But again, I'm sure it will always end up, being worthy, based on the vision and mission. So I don't know if I've in a way just said something about that.
Yeah, you did. Thank you very much, Abraham. Thank you.
In terms of passion and in terms of balancing that with what the client is expecting, you've done a lot. Do you want to mention the other ending that we spoke about, where it's about your passion projects and
Okay. Yeah. So just as an outro, guys. Something that the studio is looking to do, that's us, 9S, right? We want to shoot for these guys next year with an animation project that doesn't exist in Nigeria. Nigeria doesn't have a full. I think we have one that is Gami. I don't remember, but a full feature length, not feature length now, a fully animated short film, right? That tells a local story. So I don't know if you've seen Ijogbon, if you've seen Anikolapo, right? Imagine showing, or creating those stories. And also, I don't know if you've seen Soul animation, that's by Pixar, I think. So imagine bringing a Soul kind of animation, but telling it to the Nigerian story with our own characters, with our own, like, me, I have the vision to do it. I will do it, right? But at the same time, I'm open to as many hands that can come on board for us to shoot for these guys this way, right? Because it's creating what doesn't exist in the industry and trying to close that gap and show that you're serious on that kind of project. So that's a project we want to do. It's a studio project. It's one where, as much as I will share, because it's a thing of you're coming on board for us to work on a project. So we share. I think in particular we're looking for maybe budding 3D animators. I have a list. So 3D animators, voiceover artists, modelers, so 3D modelers. So if you just look at the film pipeline and then there's a way you also want to explore skills in that area or be a project partner on this. We have a story. We also appreciate a writer if we know we have one also and stuff, right? But if there's a way you think you want to be part of this project by the studio, you can send us a message, send us a DM in 9S Creatives on Instagram, or I think we can put the email here, contact@9screatives.com. contact@9screatives.com. Just shoot us a message. You can also send me a message personally because it's not that far, right? So you can also send me a message personally. But the thing with sending me a message personally is, if it's my time to respond or my time we need to respond, it might be slow. So when it's the studio's mail, I have the team to respond to that and then also look at that well. So maybe send a message on both sides, on the 9S page and then my own page. Also maybe the mail. Then the other opportunity. So this is a passion studio project. Let's put it like that. Then we have the other opportunity is if you are a designer, you can be a freelance project partner with us, where we can engage you on certain types of projects, right? So we just have you in our network. So you send your portfolio, whether you're a voiceover artist, whether you're a writer, whether you're, I'm sure I'm speaking to world of motion artists, right? So if you can, it's just here. It's not like, I'm not saying that there's a project now, but we know we have, we get access to those kind of projects in different ways and stuff. So if you are interested and you are a freelancer, it's something you can just share your portfolio to 9S. So we can also engage you if we have this type of opportunities. It's just opening up the door somewhat to be able to share and for us to collaborate together at some point, if we can. Right. So that one is strictly to 9S, to the contact@9screative.com email. Just help us share your portfolio there, so that we can, and your contact details if anytime. And then, yeah. So I think those two major things. But the first one, that's a project we're starting in December. So if you want to challenge yourself, learn, it's also a way to learn different type of mentorship also. You can, contact us and let's see how we can get on board. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. The recording for this session is going to be sent via your mails, because everyone who registered, we have their mails. Also, on the YouTube channel, because Abraham, there should be a breakdown session soon. There's no specific time yet, but he will definitely make that possible. So you can go there and see more. You can also see some of the things that he has described here, UV unwrapping. I've seen some other stuff on his page, so you can also go there to get some knowledge and to build some sort of network, such that you can also grow in your own knowledge of 3D motion. So I love us to all say a big thank you to him. You can unmute your mics to say thank you. You can just do claps. You can just do
Thank you, man.
Thank you, Mr. Boss.
Bro, thank you, man. It's to say I be female, like for toast you.
Yeah, so thank you so much.
Thanks a
I
lot.
can change my gender
Thanks
for
a
you.
lot.
I can change my gender for you.
How about
All right, so you guys should also look out. We also want to be able to speak to more creatives in the industry, or more 3D guys, more motion graphics people, both people in Nigeria and people outside the country, maybe other Nigerians as well, black people, or even whites, people in the 3D motion, people in the motion space. We also want to reach out to them and see if they can also come on board to also talk to them, talk to us about their process. That way, like somebody said here, he has been thinking about his life since. So that way, to challenge you to not just relax, you'd also be looking for how do I, and also encourage you to, when you see someone is, doing work at this level, you also be encouraged that one day, yourself, you get a lead session, they explain to them, say, simple task where you do, where everybody they lose their mind about. So, thank you so much. I really appreciate you all for coming. Look forward to seeing you all next time. So whatever needs to be communicated, we communicated to you via your mail. What else? So that's about it. Thank you.
Also, guys, you can let me share my LinkedIn, or just check my LinkedIn on Because Abraham. Let's talk there.
Yes.
If you can share that here, yeah.
Yes.
Let's connect.
Because Abraham's LinkedIn to be in the. Oh my God, this is very fast. Because Abraham's LinkedIn will be in the chat section as well, so you can also go check it out. So thank you. The call will end soon. So everyone, goodbye. Thanks for coming.
All right, guys. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks so much for having us. This was very insightful. Thank you.
God bless you, bro.
Zero Snapchat, zero Instagram posting. Fuck up the vibe, my dick start falling like London Bridge. I don't care if I saw you in a magazine or if you're on TV. That one don't mean nothing to me. Don't need a shower, oh baby, I need a free. Lick it like ice cream, as if you mean to be disgusting. It's not enough. Chop my banana, one side I like that, no stopping up. Push up, fuck that. Me over go low.